Stay tuned for the Sean Casey Show, a podcast for Patriots. Welcome back to the Sean Casey Show, a podcast for Patriots. It is a Thursday, July 6, 2023. I'm Sean Casey. Our producer is Michelle XX Drusella. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Sean. Hey, I can't believe it's Thursday already.
It is Thursday already.
Amazing.
And I hope you had a great Independence Day
We did.
holiday, and we're able to spend it with family and friends and fireworks, celebrating freedom. And that is the operative word here. Freedom, because it's under assault, under attack by the Marxists who are trying to drag us down, the American Marxists, by the way, trying to drag us down that hellhole to Marxism. And we have vowed not to let that happen. This is where the resistance meets each and every full episode. Don't forget, full episodes now on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the commentary happens on Saturdays. So make sure you adjust your schedules accordingly. And we would recommend that we have audio and video versions now. Today's video version is going to be very interesting because we have some video that you must see of Hunter Biden on the balcony of the White House on the 4th of July. But a lot going on and a lot to cover here in the very first couple of days heading into the big weekend on a short work week. We start with our founding fathers quote, Ben Franklin. And I thought this is one of his better ones. Quote, a Bible and a newspaper in every house, a good school in every district, all studied and appreciated as they merit, are the principal support of virtue, morality, and civil liberty. End of quote. Well, I mean, you look at it, and I don't know how many families are actually gathering around reading the Bible anymore. It's certainly not allowed in schools, right?
Exactly.
The newspaper industry is, in shatters. And even if it were there was a newspaper in every house, and the problem is most of it is slanted far to the left, and does not have America's best interest at heart. A good school in every district. Well, in some districts we have good schools, but in our major cities like Baltimore, Cleveland, and Newark, New Jersey, and some of the others, the schools are now basically run by Marxist teachers unions and CRT, transgender, and trying to indoctrinate, recruit, and groom our children into the Marxist ideology. So, there's no such thing anymore as a good school in every district. And that's the other thing. Virtue, morality, and civil liberties have all come under attack. Again, I don't know, as a nation, we might feel we're a moral people, but clearly there are pockets in our major cities where morality has just completely been tossed aside.
It's gone.
And our civil liberties came under attack during the pandemic. So we lost the ability to worship. We lost the ability to gather in public. And we, in many cases, lost our freedom of speech. And more on that coming up with the latest revelation of the Facebook Meta founder, Mark Zuckerberg. But and we're going to cover today the cocaine connection in the White House. We got Ben and Jerry's. We have Joe Biden's reaction to the Supreme Court. As I mentioned, we got Zuckerberg on Facebook and so much more. We have our Patriot of the Week, and that is featured in the #1 movie in the land right now, and that is The Sound of Freedom, even over Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And again, might be great entertainment, but this film is powerful and very important, and you should see it if you haven't already. So we got that and our liberal lunatics of the day and our outrages of the day all coming up in this episode of the Sean Casey Show. And we start off with a little bit of an update. As you might have heard by now, a little tiny plastic bag filled with white powder was discovered at the White House over the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
If you're in a big rush to make the tour bus cocaine, if you want to get down on the White House grounds, cocaine, left some behind for Hunter Biden to find. cocaine.
Oh, yeah.
Cocaine, that's right, cocaine. And what's this? We're getting a breaking news here. Press conference now from the Secret Service on the cocaine found in the West Wing of the White House.
Thank you. Here is the latest on the white powder found inside the White House. Upon discovery, we evacuated the West Wing. At that stage, we asked for volunteers to investigate. That's when the president's son, Hunter Biden, enthusiastically volunteered, or more like demanded, that he and he alone go in. He was really jonesing to get in there. Once in, Hunter immediately determined the substance to be cocaine, and some primo nose candy at that. Hunter then went about the task of removing the booger sugar with improvised items including a credit card, a rolled-up hundo, and a vanity mirror. After an exhaustive search to find more, Hunter exited the building. He was beaming, a real ball of energy. He could not stop rambling on and on about it, and then invited everyone over to his father's beach house for a bump. And that is the very latest. No questions, please. Thank you. Thank you. No questions.
All right, that's the latest, we think, from the Secret Service there.
I heard his nickname's Little Toot.
Little Toot? We're calling him Blow Biden.
Yeah,
the two Biden brothers, Bo and Blow.
Yeah, Blow, there you go.
So now we know. That's our episode today. The name of the episode is Blow Biden. And all jokes aside, I mean, the fact is that we're watching now the media, and Michelle, we were talking before the recording of the session today, and, we're commentators, we're opinion folks. This is what we do. We give our opinions, comedic or otherwise, to make points, and often satire is the best way to do that, as we have hopefully just proven. But the media is in full Biden defense mode now.
Sure.
They want you to believe that Hunter Biden was never there, that no way, shape, or form can this be Hunter Biden, that it was a tourist. We heard that the cocaine was found in the library, which is in the East Wing of the White House, not the West Wing. And now, of course, we find out the cocaine was actually discovered during a routine sweep by the Secret Service in the West Wing in a cubby where people, and again, that part of the White House, I don't know if you've ever been on a White House tour or not.
No,
and it changes
I want
from
to.
president.
Yeah.
And after 9/11, it changed, but that part of the White House is not open to the public. Now, you can get, if you're a staffer, if you work there, you can bring a VIP in. But they have to submit their names and social security numbers in order to take a tour of the West Wing. So there would be a record of everybody that visited Friday afternoon, let's say, all the way until cocaine was discovered. In addition to that, there are CCTVs inside the White House. It is the most secure building probably in the world. And the fact is that they will not. I saw an article in Politico, White House cocaine suspect may never be known.
Yeah.
Like the J6 pipe bomber and like the draft opinion leaker of Roe v. Wade. Crazy, isn't it?
And I understand some people are trying to say there are no cameras in the White House. I said, that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, that should be. They should.
Closed circuit.
Okay.
It's not for the public to see. This is Secret Service.
But they're trying to make it. But they're trying to make it sound like there's none.
And they don't have closed cameras in the living quarters of the president. No, that's true. They're not spying on the president, the first lady, and the family, what they do in the living quarters, but in the business areas, the Oval Office, that's all recorded for posterity.
A lot of misinformation out there.
Presidential study and the like. Now, some of that stuff, because if there's classified stuff being discussed, then sometimes they have the option to turn them off. Again, that was the last time I was there. Things might have changed since then, but it's been a while. But my sources are telling me that this area where they found the cocaine was not open to tourists, not open to the public, and it could have been somebody who lived there, worked there, or came in as a guest of, either somebody who lived there or worked there.
Right.
So immediately, again, speculation. First thought that I had: cocaine at the White House, Hunter Biden.
Oh,
Why would I think
too.
that? Why would I? And we're being told we're being unfair. And look, this is alleged. We don't know for sure. But based on his prolific use of cocaine, based on the fact that he is an addict, based on the fact that he got kicked out of the United States Navy because he was caught doing blow. And he should have got a dishonorable discharge, but didn't. Based on the fact that we've seen all pictures of him all over his laptop with crack pipes dangling from his mouth, driving 172 miles an hour to Vegas on crack. The man and even the president himself, the big guy, has said, his son is an addict and he's recovering from his addiction. But immediately, Karine Jean-Pierre this week went into full spin mode. Now, we can place Hunter Biden in the White House on Friday, June the 30th. It wasn't long after that he and his family, Chairman Joe and the family, got in Marine One and headed over to Camp David for the weekend before coming back Tuesday for the fireworks in D.C. But he was there at the White House on Friday. So a man who's a prolific cocaine user, a man that nobody would ever suspect or search or even want to think about searching. Imagine this. You're a person going into the White House. You're going to take a dime bag of cocaine in with you? Really?
Goodness. Wouldn't even think about it.
Unless you're his junkie. Right. Unless you're the dope pusher for Hunter Biden. I can't think of anybody in their right mind that would think about doing that and risk getting caught because you get frisked.
Right. That's what I was going to say. There's checkpoints.
Yeah, there are checkpoints, and that's why they caught this in the routine sweep. Now, some are suggesting this may have been a drop, that somebody came in as a staffer, because let's face it, all eyes are on Hunter Biden right now, and we believe he's now living at the White House, and maybe he was running out of blow, and he needed more, and they placed a call, and some staffer brought in somebody who had a dime bag of it, and they dropped it.
In the little cubby, yeah.
Right, and Hunter was going to pick it up next. Maybe they got their signals crossed. I doubt Hunter Biden would have left it there intentionally.
I don't know. He left the laptop
accidentally. Maybe it was a drop. Maybe it was there to help boost up Joe. Maybe that's the reason why some days he's completely out of it, and other days he looks bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So who knows? But we do know these are the facts. Secret Service has now confirmed it was indeed cocaine. And I've been told that calling it cocaine hydrochloride, which is the freebase version of cocaine. So it wasn't the powder cocaine. It was more of the crack freebase type. And gee, who's been known to use that?
And that's what he likes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that is also very damning. And the fingers pointing to Hunter Biden. But Karine Jean-Pierre said, no. Couldn't possibly have been him. In fact, they were out of town for the weekend. Don't you know?
But one thing that I can share that I'll share a little bit more information. As you know, the president and the first lady and their family were not here this weekend, as you all reported on this, and as you also know that they left on Friday and returned just yesterday. Where this was discovered is a heavily traveled area where many White House West Wing, I should be even more specific, West Wing visitors come through this particular area. I just don't have anything more to share. It is under investigation by the Secret Service. This is in their purview, and so we're going to allow certainly the investigation to continue, and we have confidence that the Secret Service will get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, I'm sure the Secret Service will get to the bottom of it, but will we hear about it? Will they be transparent? Will this be another protect Hunter Biden, protect the Biden crime family by a federal agency? If the Secret Service hopes to get the respect that it deserves, and they are, it's amazing people, the amazing work that they do, especially the protection details that are willing to step in front of a bullet for their protectee. If they want to not go down the wayside of the FBI, the DOJ, the DHS, and the rest of them, the CDC, and the IRS, then they better come clean here. And there are security tapes, we are told, that in the White House. In fact, we've been learning from some in the Secret Service that they already have begun to review that. That's all part of the investigation. Now, whether we see them or not, I don't know. We still haven't seen all of the J6 tapes, and they're in the hands now, again, of John Solomon and Julie Kelly. And they're saying they're being very careful as they go through those tapes because they don't want this group called the Sedition Hunters to go by and identify people that may have not been identified before because they make life miserable for them. But let's get back to Hunter Biden here for just a second. So away for the weekend, comes back Tuesday night at the fireworks in D.C., and they're on the second floor, the balcony there of the White House, and it was Hunter and Jill, and Jill was there, and it looked like one of the daughters was there as well. And in this first clip, you're going to see this is if you're watching, obviously, if you're listening, then we'll try to describe it for you the best you can. You'll see in this clip that he's obscured from sight a little bit by Jill Biden, the first lady, but he does look nervous. He does look out of sorts. He does look like something happened to his nose. We're not sure if it's an allergy, if he's got a cold.
He looks a little pasty, pale and pasty.
He's a little sweaty. And then, you can see him sniff. Maybe he's just taken after dear old dad, just without lady's hair in the immediate vicinity. But let's watch this clip. And some are calling it suspicious behavior by Blow Biden. Yeah. So, right. And he almost like he used Jill as a shield.
Yes.
That you couldn't see was up to. In the second clip that you're going to see here, and I'll describe it if you're listening, he just looks really out of it. I mean, looks not like he's, people that are high on cocaine, I've seen it before. They get very jittery.
Yes.
It's almost like they're nervous.
Yes.
And they get they want to jump out of their skin, especially if they need another hit or whatever, another line to get them back where they once were. So this to me, I think, is a little bit more damning as to his overall mindset, his attitude, mentally and physically that night. Yeah. So he's again, he's upset. He's wiping the sweat off his brow. Looks like he's a little agitated there.
I mean, his wife has both children in her arms trying to entertain them. You would think he would take one of them. It's like instead he's just like, oh my God.
Well, he has this thing with his children. The ones that he claims he's not even that close to.
Right.
I mean, again, these are Biden family values. So, I mean, that's look, it's not a smoking gun. It's not damning evidence, but it is curious behavior, suspicious behavior, especially those that I've talked to in law enforcement that have seen that. And at the White House, the Karine Jean-Pierre was questioned about, well, does the president think it's important to investigate how this cocaine got into the White House?
Secret Service is getting to the bottom of it, and that's what matters, and it's under their purview.
But the question was, how determined is the president?
The president thinks it's very important to get to the bottom of this. That's why Secret Service, which is under their purview, is looking into this.
Important. It's vital. Yeah. It's vital that we get to the bottom of it, because let's say it wasn't cocaine. Let's say it was, I don't know, anthrax, maybe even fentanyl. Or carfentanil.
Ricin.
You touch that stuff, you're dead.
Yeah.
So we ought to be concerned that a white powdery substance somehow was able to get inside the White House. I've also been told by friends that they do have the modern advanced technology that can detect aerosolized poisons inside the White House. I don't think that's common knowledge, but it certainly is possible. But still, you would think, why tempt fate and have this kind of behavior accepted? Then the other part of it is, I think, in order to get to the bottom of it, shouldn't there be drug testing for everybody, every employee, every staffer, and every member of the Biden crime family?
The White House is subject to rigorous guidelines that include drug testing. And so we will take any action that is appropriate and warranted pending the outcome of the Secret Service. Just not going to get into hypotheticals from here.
Yeah, and I would think that the president would come out and say, this is outrageous, it's unacceptable, that drugs, a Schedule II drug like this, which is on the same class as fentanyl, that it somehow would find its way into the White House, or was already in the White House and was left out in the open. And I am bound and determined, I've authorized the Secret Service to fully investigate this and release all their findings. And in fact, I'll be the first to go. I'll be the first to be drug tested here. And my family is, except for Hunter. He is out of town and can't make it.
I mean, Biden in 1994 sponsored a bill that would put you behind bars for 5 years carrying just a little bit of cocaine.
Right. It was all part of that, the bill that, well, in fact, that's why so many blacks were incarcerated.
Yes.
That's why they were upset at him over that bill in 1994, 1995.
So you think he'd come out and say something?
Yeah, you would think. But then again, that's Joe Biden. And again, everything, it's like recently they're fighting this affirmative action ruling. And they got wind of, you know what legacy admissions are when you go to, like, say, Harvard or Stanford. Again, if you are a child of a graduate of those higher institutes of learning, you get automatically accepted.
Wow.
As long as you meet the criteria of a SAT and grade point average, and they're not going to take you if your kid's a dummy, or if you are a dummy, obviously. But in this particular case, these legacy admissions, they find out, are largely white admissions, white applicants, upper crust, the global elitist, upper Manhattan, upper west side of Manhattan, progressive leftists. Those are the ones that are getting in on these legacy admissions. And he vowed he was going to stop it. We've got to stop this. This isn't right, blah, 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 blah. Well, he pulled strings to get his daughter. Into, I think it was either Penn or Delaware. I can't remember which. His daughter's grades were horrible. But somehow he got her in there as well. Favoritism, you bet. And recently, the Delaware Supreme Court has ruled that his documents at the University of Delaware will remain sealed. They'll remain closed to the public. Now, this is a current president, and he was a former vice president. Maybe I could see that all current documents that he holds as president shall be sealed. But the stuff that's already at Delaware when he was a senator and as a vice president, why would you want to keep that from the American people?
Right, unless you have something to hide.
Preferential, special treatment for the Biden crime family. And that's where it is today. Speaking of hypocrisy, Mark Zuckerberg privately told Facebook execs to be cautious about the vaccine, about the jab. And we're going to see that in just a second. He then would go on to censor scientists, doctors, mRNA, jab-injured individuals. Those, myself, I've spent time in Facebook jail, and others that would call into question the settled science that Tony Fauci was trying to jam down our throats. Well, in perhaps one of his best gets, James O'Keefe of Oh My God Media, he is used to be with Project Veritas before they had a falling out. He actually has put this report together regarding Zuckerberg, what he privately told Facebook execs, and then what publicly happened. Let's listen and watch and enjoy, shall we?
We just don't know the long-term side effects of basically modifying people's DNA and RNA.
DNA is inherent in your own nucleus cell.
We just don't know the long-term side effects of basically modifying people.
Last week, Facebook announced they are, quote, expanding their efforts to remove false claims on Facebook and Instagram about COVID-19 vaccines. Let's take a look at Facebook's most updated COVID-19 vaccine policy. The real kicker is right here in the policy where Facebook says it would remove any content that, quote, claims the COVID-19 vaccine changes people's DNA. Well, we just got a new leaked tape from Zuckerberg himself, the CEO of Facebook, basically violating his own code of conduct. He would be censored on the platform today for what he said.
I share some caution on this because we just don't know the long-term side effects of basically modifying people's DNA and RNA.
So when Zuckerberg said, quote, basically, the vaccine is modifying people's DNA, it seems pretty clear modifying is synonymous with changing. Again, Zuckerberg would be banned from Facebook for saying this. This video of me showing the CEO of Facebook talking might be.
Yeah, so that pretty much shows it. And you might say, why are we seeing this now? Because this all happened down back in March of 2020. And because a lot of this stuff has been censored. A lot of it has been kept off Facebook, off social media. James O'Keefe couldn't show it back when he was with Project Veritas. Everything was spiked again. And so this is just proof positive that this is the guy that spent $400 million to chase ballots and pursue ballots and harvest ballots and pick them up and dump them into these mail-in ballot boxes. So this guy is not an innocent player. He's not just one big tech social media guru. He is a political activist, and he works very hard, in fact, night and day, and spends millions, if not billions of dollars to elect Democrats and to keep the truth from the American people. And now, of course, he's launched what he's calling the Twitter killer, something called Threads through his Meta platform. And it's supposed to compete with Twitter. I've not seen it yet. I have been told by conservatives who have tried to get on it that is the first post that they put up there that was remotely conservative was taken down.
Wow.
So this is the left-wing platform trying now to take over where Twitter once was, because Twitter was once reliably dominated by the radical left before Elon Musk bought it and neutralized and leveled the playing field. Well, they weren't happy with that. See, they're not happening unless they're censoring conservatives, silencing dissent, and affecting free speech. The left used to be the biggest warriors for free speech when you go back to the University of California, Berkeley, and the free speech movement started out west, but no longer. They want to censor, they want to silence, they want to restrict, and make sure that the truth never gets out there. So I thought that was an important revelation to share with you today. We've heard since last week, a couple of big decisions have come down from the Supreme Court on affirmative action, on student loan forgiveness, and 2 religious liberty cases. We've already discussed those at great length. But again, I just want to, I talked to a federal judge yesterday, Judge Amul Tapar. He's written a book on Justice Thomas, and he's concerned. He's concerned that the left now is constantly threatening the court. There was an assassination attempt on Justice Thomas. There is this going after Thomas and Alito and some of their friends and the family friends and business associates, accusing them of wrongdoing, of illegality. There's also an attempt to pack the courts now, since the left, which has always used the Supreme Court as their super legislature. Now that is an avenue that has dried up for the moment. They're okay using it for whatever they needed for the last, going back to Roe v. Wade in 1973. But now that the tide has turned a little bit and it's a 6-3, largely conservative court, they want to pack it and they want to end it. Because why? Because that's how the left does things, through fear, intimidation, and making sure that, again, if they disagree with something, they don't just say, okay, well, bad decision, we'll have to recraft it or retool. No, they want to destroy it. And that's how they work. And Joe Biden, in a couple of his comments last week, first up, after the affirmative action decision came down, ending racial-based preferences at colleges and universities, this is what he said.
This is not a normal court.
This is not a normal court. This is a rogue court. This is a radical court. It's not normal. If it's not normal, it's abnormal. And so the message going out to the left, again, is, we're not going to accept this. We're not going to accept their rulings. It was okay for the country to accept Roe v. Wade for, 50 years or so. That was okay, but not others. So that is just, and then on the student loan forgiveness program, he basically tried to draw an analogy to Congress, the pandemic, and the PPP plan.
I believe the court's decision to strike down my student debt relief program was a mistake, was wrong. I'm not going to stop fighting to deliver borrowers what they need, particularly those at the bottom end of the economic scale. So we need to find a new way. And we're moving as fast as we can.
Yeah, and look, he can say it's wrong. I don't have a problem with disagreeing with the court. I've disagreed with the court.
Right.
I felt they got the opinions wrong, and that's fine. You can say that we do not agree with the decision,
right,
or with the reasoning behind it. That's fine. But calling the court not normal, having Chuck U. Schumer, you'll rue the day, Gorsuch, and the rest of them threatening them, and then watching as a justice. There was an assassination attempt at the home of a justice, and we still don't know the name of that leaker, which I believe firmly had to come from a left-wing justice. And my guess, if I would take a wild guess, is probably Sotomayor. I don't know for a fact. That's just my opinion. It's just a guess as to why. Now to the hypocrisy of the moment. Once again, Chairman Joe.
Several members of Congress got over $1 million. All those loans were forgiven. You know how much that program cost? $760 billion. My program's too expensive.
Yeah, but the difference is, and this is where he is a constitutional mess. Congress passed an act of Congress legislating the Paycheck Protection Program in order to save companies, to save jobs. That was an act of Congress.
It's different.
You can't do that by executive order.
Right. And it's different.
You can't decree it to be, and then the executive orders only really apply to federal agencies and federal employees. They don't apply to the rest of us.
It's different.
It's not an act of legislation. It's a policy guideline or policy clarification, if you will.
We were saving the country at that time. We had a health emergency going on. There is no health emergency for student loans. It was just you chose a stupid field to go into that didn't make any money. And
look, there are some people. You're right. There's some people that took out loans of $50,000, $60,000. And they were art majors or art lit majors. And what are you going to do with that major? Okay. So
spending $400,000 for that.
But there are others, doctors, lawyers who have borrowed upwards of $300,000. Well, guess what? Successful doctors and lawyers could pay those loans back,
yes.
Probably within the first 2-3 years, depending upon what kind of practice they go into or what hospital they work at or what law firm.
Exactly.
For those people, they're able to repay their loans, but they would have been covered under this as well. And of course, then they have to change the income qualification on it. And it's a violation of due process. You can't say we're going to forgive some loans and not others.
Right.
You can't say we're going to forgive loans for poor people, but not for the richer people. Again, this is how our tax system works. I'd love to see that come up before the Supreme Court on how the way the confiscatory tax scheme has been drawn up. But I think we're probably light years, if ever, away from that. Another evidence of Biden family values. If you haven't been following the story recently, Hunter Biden was sued by the exotic dancer girlfriend who he sired a young girl with. Her name is London Roberts, the exotic dancer, and the 5-year-old child, his name is Navy Joan Roberts. And two things were happening. She wanted to get more child support or increase her child support. Okay. And the second was most importantly, is she wanted the child to have the Biden name. After all, remember, Hunter Biden fought this. He denied having a relationship and impregnating this exotic dancer. Then she sued and got a paternity test. And guess what? Lo and behold, there he is. Blow Biden had another child. This was the 7th grandchild of Joe Biden and Jill Biden, but they've never acknowledged this poor girl, which I think is shameful. I think it's disgraceful that it's not this poor girl's fault that Hunter Biden brought her into the world. And the right thing to do would be to give her the Biden name.
Yeah.
Make sure she's taken care of for life. This isn't somebody that isn't shaking them down. It's been proven that this is Biden. And I've heard him before saying, he always crows and, boasts about his family and his mother and his father and this one and that one. And I understand tragedy hit him very early on as he was running for Senate, and he lost his first wife and 2 children. I feel bad about that, but then he mitigates that by going and blaming the truck driver who said he was drunk at the time. He wasn't, and it was his wife's fault who crossed the road. So this guy has been lying. He's a liar and a cheat and a plagiarizer and a pervert and a creeper, and has been for 50 years. But at the very least he could do is send a message to the country and to this little. Imagine this little girl just wanting to know who her father is, and her grandfather is president of the United States.
Right.
But they want nothing to do with her. They want to shun her. Unfortunately, the exotic dancer lost in court, and the $5,000 a month was reduced because guess what? Hunter isn't out there making big deals anymore, so he can't afford that. But, you know, what he was able to get or give, according to the judge, some of his art, the proceeds of his art can be sold and given to Navy Joan Roberts. You know, the blow pop art, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Stuck a straw in his mouth. If the straw wasn't in his nose, it was in his mouth.
Exactly.
That's how he lived most days. But anyway, a reporter, and I think this is a fascinating exchange because we've been talking about this story now for years. And only when the New York Times verifies it does it now become grist for the mill and fair question at the White House press secretary briefing yesterday here. Once again, Karine Jean-Pierre with that reporter.
There was a story in the New York Times over the weekend about Hunter Biden's daughter in Arkansas. Does the president acknowledge this little girl as his granddaughter?
I don't have anything to share from.
No, nothing.
No, I think that's horrific. Imagine if you're this young girl or the mother watching this. I'm not even going to admit that you exist.
Right.
You're nothing to me. You talk about dysfunction in the White House. You talk about, what's happened here in the last month. We've seen during the, Pride Month, we saw a bunch of trannies prancing all over the White House. In fact, one biological male had implants. They weren't real breasts, but taking his top off and, with the tassels or whatever, and, shaking his fake boobs. Boy, you talk about, let's try to keep it classy. And then on the heels of that, you find out there's cocaine found in the White House. No, the only thing that's in the White House right now is white trash.
Yeah.
That's who this family is.
If you ever get a chance to watch Idiocracy, watch it.
Oh, great movie.
I just saw it this weekend and I was like, this is so poetic what's happening now and what's in that movie.
We thought it was just a futuristic comedy.
Right.
In fact, it isn't,
Exactly.
And I think that when you see a president that is, he wants you to think he's the president of all people, the president of these United States, he likes to say, that he has compassion. Well, we've not seen any compassion for MAGA Republicans, for Trump supporters, and we haven't seen any compassion for this little girl. And I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, it does.
I think that for him to say, okay, my son screwed up. It wasn't the way traditional families are crafted. But guess what?
But we still love her and we want her to be part of our family. That would be beautiful.
Provide a nurturing, loving environment for this young girl, in spite of how you feel that she came into the world. Not her fault.
It's not her fault, right?
She is one of God's children. And that's the other thing. He claims to be a devout Catholic who, what would Jesus do?
Exactly.
Certainly not what Joe Biden's doing. That is for sure. Donald Trump in Pickens, South Carolina, Friday night. Well, he went after Joe Biden, and he says it's time to take the gloves off.
But today, everything having to do with those courageous Americans who fought for us and sacrificed so strongly is indeed being destroyed under crooked Joe Biden, and he is crooked as hell, isn't it? I've been hitting him much differently than I have because I've always respected the office. And then when they indicted me for nothing, I said, now the gloves are off. Now we have to say it like it is. He's a crook. Under crooked Joe Biden, I never called him that. I took the name away from Hillary Clinton. We call her beautiful Hillary now.
No.
Because it was crooked Hillary, now it's crooked Joe, because it's a much more appropriate name right now for this man who's just destroying our country. Under crooked Joe Biden, millions and millions of illegal aliens are streaming across our border. Main Street is being crushed by catastrophic inflation. Our Constitution is being ripped to shreds. Our children are being taught to hate our great heroes. Hate them. You're going to hate Abraham Lincoln. You're going to hate George Washington. Men are competing in women's sports. How about that one? murderers, gang members, and bloodthirsty killers are being set loose on innocent people. And Joe Biden is stumbling us into the brink of World War III because he has no idea what the hell he's doing.
Yeah, and that's the glove should come off. And and the one guy that will take the fight, I think DeSantis would fight, but I think Trump is the ultimate fighter. The rest of them are just they're nice people. Vivek Ramaswamy, and I'm not a big fan of Mike Pence any longer. He basically said if you don't support the war in Ukraine, you're not a Republican. Okay, then I'm not a Republican. I do not support it. Mike Pence lost his way. I think he smelled blood in the water he would have been tied to Trump another 4 years. And I think he basically sold him out, sold the country out. I will never vote for Mike Pence, ever.
No, me either.
In any capacity. I will write in something. And I don't care if
I agreed.
A vote that would reelect Joe Biden.
Yeah. I agreed with Trump all the way up until he said we call Hillary beautiful Hillary.
Well, you got to think about the way
Hillary.
Trump brands.
I know.
The way that Trump brands is too is one is it's as obvious as a heart attack. Low energy Jeb.
Yes.
Okay. And some of the other ones that he's had over then he also goes to where he does the opposite of, it's like, Lion Ted. Well, Ted Cruz isn't a liar.
No.
But that's how, and beautiful Hillary, that's sort of an oxymoron, I would think.
I guess.
That's how he's using it, I believe.
I think so too.
Okay, time for our Patriot of the week. And the number one movie in the land is not Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
It is The Sound of Freedom. And this is an incredible story. But our Patriot is Tim Ballard, who the story is about. And Tim was an agent of the Department of Homeland Security, and he was working in Colombia undercover to try to stop the drug rings and the arms trafficking and everything else that comes from the Darien Gap through Colombia and Panama and everything else. And so he discovered while he was down there that there was a major child human trafficking ring operating out of Colombia involving Miss Cartagena. And so he soon discovers this is much larger than he had ever imagined. His assignment came to an end. He told his superiors at the Department of Homeland Security that he wanted to stay there because he was doing important work. They said no. He discussed it with his wife. He prayed to God. And his wife, who was played by Mira Sorvino in the film The Sound of Freedom, tells him, no, you stay there. You quit their job. You save those kids, because she was worried about her own salvation, knowing what was going on in that part of the world, knowing that God's children were being herded up, rounded up, and sold into the most horrific sex human trafficking rings known on the planet. Tim Ballard decided to do something. So he started Operation Underground Railroad, where he would go and investigate and go on these missions and to save children from these traffickers. And in some cases, he was able to reunite brothers and sisters and, siblings with their parents. All told, he put some 200 pedophiles behind bars. Think about that. One guy.
Wow.
And he was assisted by like 30 Navy SEALs who had either quit or retired or no longer active. These people are truly the salt of the earth, the patriots that make this country great. Because they did it at great risk. Every operation they went in to save children, they did not have the cover of the United States government. They did not have protection. There was no backup to come if they got in trouble. They could have very easily been killed or captured or tortured, whatever the case may be. This is bravery beyond the scope.
God bless them.
So, God bless them is right. And so no movie theater would touch this. Disney had it. They didn't want it. So finally, Tim Ballard wanted Jim Caviezel, who played the Passion of the Christ in that movie, to portray him in the film. And this Angel Motion Pictures took it over. And man, they did it the smart way. The way they've done things now, 2,600 theaters, versus 4,600 for Indiana Jones, 2-1 almost in the Dial of Destiny. And they're out drawing them and out earning them so far. Now, things could change, but as word of mouth gets around. And what they've done is they've done something very smart. You can go to their website, angel.com, and I think it's / Sound of Freedom. But just go to angel.com where you can put in the search engine. It'll come up. And you can buy tickets for somebody else to see it. You can pay it forward. And so Disney's upset, saying, well, pre-sales, pre-tickets, or when you're selling tickets before they actually go on, open up is illegal and should be counted. They all count. Yeah. They're tickets to people who wanted to watch the movie. Whether they went to see it or not, I don't know. But based on the number of people that I've talked to already that have seen this movie, it is powerful. It will leave you questioning a lot of things. And what it does is it reinforces, and I think this message needed to get out, it reinforces the message of good versus evil. Do you remember when the Obama cages on the southern border?
Yes.
When children were in these fences, they were called cages, but they were just perimeter fences and stuff. That was somewhat of a controversy. And then Trump did it, and oh my God, it was the end of the world.
I know.
Well, we'll get to my outrage a little bit later on. But in this particular case, we know that this is a $150 billion industry and that the United States is the top destination for children to be trafficked. Number one.
Wow. That's very sad.
I should have given you a spoiler alert because you're going to go see the movie that comes up at the end. But it's still, if you're expecting it, it's one thing. If you're not, people are stunned. They're walking out of this movie stunned that we, the shining city on the hill, the beacon of freedom, are enabling and not doing a damn thing to stop this horrific abuse and torture of children. So we'll get to that.
Makes you wonder who's lining their pockets from that.
Yep, you're absolutely right about that. Tim Ballard, you, sir, are an American hero.
Amen.
And a patriot, and we salute you. Liberal lunatics of the day, as you might imagine, in 22 cities across the country over Independence Day weekend, 126 people were shot and 26 murders were committed from Baltimore to Philadelphia to Chicago to Milwaukee to Fort Lauderdale, I think is the last one. And the problem is, once again, is that it's not the guns. It's the people that are pulling the trigger on the guns. It's the criminal. It's the gangbanger. It's the cartels. It's the MS-13, the 18th Street, Latin Kings, Crips, Bloods, etc. They're the ones that are, the Chinese are trafficking in the illegal firearms in the United States. We have an open southern border. And the mayor of Baltimore, who on Friday night, Saturday morning, saw 30 people involved in a horrific gangland shooting where 28 were injured, 2 were killed. He's blaming everybody but himself.
But these weapons come from Virginia. They come from Texas. They come from Florida. They come from Alabama. They come from everywhere in this country. And this is why it's critically important, not just for me as the mayor of Baltimore, but every mayor that will tell you the same thing. We have to deal with this issue of guns and the flow of illegal guns into the hands of people who should not have them at the national level.
No, it's the red states. In the red states, that's where all the guns. Gee, if all the illegal guns are in the red states, why aren't they having massive problems with crime?
Right.
Not that they're immune. There have been horrific shootings in Dallas and in Virginia, at Virginia Tech. I can tell you that one out of memory because my son went there. Logan, our youngest producer, went to youngest son and our producer here. He went to Virginia Tech. This is way after the shooting there, but it's everywhere. It's across the country, but it's especially present in cities run by progressives, by these Marxists. Baltimore, Philadelphia, D.C., New York.
They don't lock the people up. They don't lock the people up. There's no consequences for their actions, and they keep on rising to the occasion of using a firearm and killing people.
and it's very easy to get.
Yes.
Now, and they also steal them from gun stores.
Yeah.
They steal them from people's homes,
right,
et cetera.
Yeah.
It is not just the red states that are shipping guns into. If he's so worried about guns coming from other places, why has he spoken out against the southern border? Anyway, that's Baltimore's Mayor Brandon Scott. Okay. All right, we'll get to our second nominee. Now, this gets complicated because, remember, Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield, the owners of Ben and Jerry's, sold their company to Unilever in about 20 years or so ago. Big conglomerate, big globalist corporation. So Ben and Jerry's is out on Independence Day with a tweet. And they said the United States was founded on stolen indigenous land. This 4th of July, let's commit to returning it. So that was their message on Independence Day from people that use this country, free markets and capitalism, to enrich themselves first and then to sell it to Unilever, which, by the way, has a lot of holdings. There's a lot of buildings on a lot of land in the United States and elsewhere. So if Ben and Jerry, and I don't know whether this came from their personal Twitter account or from Unilever posing as Ben and Jerry, then why don't you start with yourselves?
Right.
Why don't you give up all the land that your buildings occupy, your plants, your manufacturing, your stores, and set an example. Stop talking the talk, start walking the walk. And secondly, this idea that it was stolen, I'm sorry, it was not stolen. In many cases, we paid for it. If you remember, New York Manhattan was bought and paid for. The settlers traded and gave the Indians goods and in some cases money. And over the years, there was the Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You know, again, much of this land was negotiated for and bought. Now, you may not have liked the deal. You may have thought that the settlers, our founding fathers, got the best of the Native Americans, but it wasn't stolen. There was an exchange of goods for this land. And my question is, for the Mongoloids that came over from Asia to the United States, or the Mongols, I'm sorry, I think that's the proper term, then it is, again, maybe there was somebody here before them. Who knows? Right. So it is, this is how conquests occur. This is how land is annexed. And let's not forget that some savage Indian tribes themselves would conquer other tribes. Exactly. And they would take their land, their women, and their children. And the men, well, they were left to fend on their own. So, Ben and Jerry's.
So Unilever's down. Just want to let you know as far as stock goes today.
Oh, okay, great. Should be.
Yes.
And finally, Nicole Cunningham is a member of the San Francisco Slavery Reparations Committee. She called straight white men a danger to society and serial killers in a recent interview with the Daily Telegraph. Quote, straight white men are abusive. Straight white men are serial killers. They have the most. I watch these shows. The most serial killers. Straight white men are the ones who are shooting up schools, right? So they're a danger to society, adding, well, maybe not all of them. End of quote. Nicole Cunningham is a black woman, and she's on the Reparations Committee, and I think she's
wonderful. Yes.
Further her feather her nest with more money there. All right, so those are our nominees. Baltimore's mayor blaming it on the states for illegal guns. Ben and Jerry, stolen land, and Nicole Cunningham, white men are abusive and serial killers. Who are you voting for, Michelle?
Nicole, the last one. I can't believe she's, saying that. I think it's a racist remark, even though she won't be called racist for it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. She is racist. I'm going to go with Brandon Scott since, number one, we're from Baltimore. Right. And I think that's a national interview that he gave. And to blame it on other states, right? When your crime policies, your progressive policies, everything that you've tried to rein in crime, where in Baltimore for the last 8 years, over 300 homicides each and every year. Babies are being gunned down in the streets. You can't go down there and work. You can't recreate. You can't have fun anymore. And we're watching the slow death and destruction of a once great American city. Nicole Cunningham is a jackass. But Brandon Scott, I think, is dangerous.
Somebody near
so that's why.
Yeah, well, that's good. A good one. I was going to say somebody near and dear to me had a job opportunity in Baltimore, and they said no because it's too dangerous to work there. So
yes, it is. All right, let's get to our outrages of the day. We're running out of time.
Yeah.
Sam running through the hourglass today. What is your outrage, Michelle?
Well, addiction is a serious thing, and it just outraged me that some of the news, the alphabet networks, they just took light of Hunter Biden, or the possibility that the cocaine found at the White House was Hunter Biden's, and they act like it was no big deal and making jokes. And like you said at the beginning of the show, that we're commentators. And, if that's how we use our time to make satire out and make a point, that's one thing. But the news is not supposed to be for that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at it, not only are they not supposed to do that, they are very selective in how they treat people.
Yes.
I remember when they would mock and or basically point out that Donald Trump's eating and drinking habits were he doesn't drink alcohol, but he drank like 12 Diet Cokes a day or whatever it was. And they thought that was unhealthy and that he liked his Big Macs and his cheeseburgers and fast food and that he's a slightly overweight guy, but he's a big dude.
Yeah.
Former President Trump.
He is.
But they always question, is that in the best interest of the nation to have somebody that eats unhealthy and drinks unhealthy like that? There was a concern, and albeit I'm sure it was crocodile type tears. But here we have a legitimate crack addict who is compromised, who has compromised his father, who's a national security risk, and they think it's funny.
Right.
So that's who they are. My outrage is we just talked about the sound of freedom. And I want to point out that under the open borders policies of Joe Biden and the rest of the progressive Democrats, Barack Hussein Obama, 85,000 children now are believed to be missing that have crossed our southern border since Joe Biden was installed. 85,000, whether intentional or not. The United States government. I want to read you a quote from Tara Lee Rodas, and we played it here on this program from early on in April of this year. She was giving testimony for the House Judiciary Subcommittee. And she said, quote, whether intentional or not, it can be argued that the United States government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation run by bad actors seeking profit off the lives of children. Realizing that we were not offering the children the American dream, but instead putting them into modern-day slavery with wicked overlords was a terrible revelation. They threatened me with an investigation. They took my badge. It is a terrible thing when you blow the whistle to try and save children and you're retaliated by your own government for trying to help. The HHS did everything they could to keep all of it silent. End of quote. Another great American hero, Tara Lee Rodas, Tim Ballard, and as the movie says, God's children are not for sale.
Nope.
Keep that in mind. All right, our Pockets of Patriots here today. D.C. still number one. Hey, Owings Mills for the first time my hometown is number 2. Frostburg, Maryland is for the first time in the top 10. And New Orleans right up there as well. So we give a shout out. Thank you for listening. Please remember to download, subscribe, rate, and review. And if you ever want to comment on any of part of the show or anything we've said or suggest a story or a topic that we cover, feel free to do so. Drop us a line at theshawncaseyshow@gmail.com.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
Thanks again to our executive producer, Michelle XX Drusella.
You're welcome. Great show.
And to our other producers, associate producers, Hunter and Logan Casey. We want you to have a great weekend. And don't forget, Saturday, the Casey commentary drops. We're back with a full episode for you on Tuesday. Remember, until then, fight hard and stay free.
Great.